Hey, beauties and cuties. Welcome to Coach LeAnna Speaks, where we talk about life because life be happening. So, what is your relationship like with your father? Fathers are important. So, is yours strained? Is it non existent? Or is it good? Like y'all are thick as thieves. He is your best friend. Come on in. Let's talk about it. Because life be happening. Hey, beauties and cuties. Welcome to Coach LeAnna Speaks, where we talk about life because life be happening. So, the question that was asked was, what is your relationship like with your father? Is it non existent? Are y'all close? Like he is your very best friend? Or is it strained? So let's talk about it. A few videos back, I talked about my dad, and I said I'm gonna do a video on my dad so that y'all can understand why I am how I am. A lot of times we don't realize the importance of having your father in your life. Fathers are important, but you don't realize that until later on in life when you hadn't had your father or you didn't have a relationship with your father and you like to blame. Like for years, I blamed my dad for a lot of stuff. And I realized that I had dad issues. Like I didn't have my dad in my life. But we gotta talk about why. But I felt like because of my father issues, I made very poor choices when it came to men and relationships because I feel like fathers are supposed to be in their daughters' lives so that they could guide them on the kind of men they could pick or should pick. Most times, when you take a man to meet your father will know right off the bat if that man is good enough for you. So I never had that. So my picking men was always, woo, anyway. So I always said that, if my dad and I had a better relationship, maybe things would have been different for me, but maybe not because I've always been rebellious. So it might not have been, but who knows, right? So as I told y'all in the previous video, my parents broke up when I was like 9 or 10. I remember, I want to say it was 10 because for my 10th birthday, my dad got me my first 10-speed bike. It was pink and gray. I'll never forget it. It was my best gift ever. Like I had wanted a bike and he got me a 10-speed and I was just like elated, right? So, that was the best thing ever. And then soon after my birthday, my parents went their own ways. Now, if you have read my book or have bought my book and read my story, my father was a married man and my mom was the side piece, the mistress, however you would like to call it. But he was married the whole time they were together and dating, but he still did things with us as a family. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. So anyway, when my parents broke up, they agreed that I would come to visit him every Saturday. So it would be Saturday daddy-daughter days. And it was great. My dad knew I love ice cream. I eat ice cream all year round. Like that is my happy place. When I am down, I eat ice cream. When I'm frustrated, I eat ice cream. Ice cream is my happy place. So my dad and I would go to Baskin and Robbins, which was our favorite spot to go get our ice cream. We get 3 scoops of ice cream and we sit there and we'd laugh and we'd talk and we'd bond. And we did that for a while. Well, my parents didn't live very far from one another, so I could walk from my mother's house to my father's house. And back in that time, you didn't worry about getting snatched, right? Like, not like now. Like now, I watch my kids wherever they go. But back then, it wasn't as high of an issue. So I would walk to my father's house every Saturday for our daddy-daughter day. And then that evening, he'd take me home. Okay, well, this one particular Saturday, I walked to my father's house. And when I get there, I knock on the door, as I always did. And this time, a lady answered the phone, or answered the door. And I was like, hello, and I asked for my father by his government name. And the lady told me that he was asleep and she was not going to wake him up. And then she slammed the door in my face. So I knocked on the door again, and I told her that I was his daughter and asked her if she would please go wake him up and let him know that his daughter was outside. And she said, daughter? He ain't told me he had no daughter. Ma'am, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I am a 11-year-old child that's just trying to hang out with my daddy. And she said, well, I'm not finna wake him up. I told you, little girl, you need to go back wherever you came from. And she slammed the door in my face again. Now it's starting to rain. So I'm like, I don't want to walk back home in the rain. Even though it's not a far distance, I don't want to walk back home in the rain. So I knock on the door again. And this time I asked for my brother, which is the brother next to me, who stayed with our father at that time. So I said, hey, is he home? Because then he can tell you that I'm his sister, that's our dad, and I can sit in his room until dad wakes up. The lady said, he's not here either, and I'm not waking him up, and so you need to go back where you came from. Okay. So in the rain, I walked maybe 3-4 blocks in the rain back home. Now, mind you, now that I'm a mother, I understand why my mom reacted the way she did, because I'd have been probably the same way. Anyway, I get home, I go in the house, and I'm crying, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, and I'm wet. I'm soaking wet. And so my mom looked at me and she's like, what are you doing here? So I explained to her everything that had just happened to me. My mom told me go upstairs, change into some dry clothes, and then we're going back around to your father's house. So that's what we did. We get to the house. My mom knocks on the door like she is the police. Now my dad comes to the door. And he like, what are you doing knocking on my door like you the police? What is your problem? So she asked him, do you know what today is? He said, it's Saturday. She said, and what do you do on Saturdays? He said, I get my daughter. And he said, well, where is she? She said, she's right here. So she said, LeAnna, tell your dad what happened. So I told my dad what happened. And now the lady peeping over my dad's shoulder, trying to figure out who we are and what's going on. And so I said, oh, there the lady is right there. And my mama said, okay, that's all I need to know. Well, soon after that, my mama told me to go get back in the car. And from the car, I watched a nice little altercation happen between my mama and this woman and my father. And my mama more so less gave the woman the business. I understand that now, because as a mother, I'd have been the same way. As a mother I am now, I'd have probably been the same way. So anyway, after that, our daddy-daughter dates died right along with that day. Needless to say, years later, maybe 2 years later, he married the woman. So that made our relationship even more strained, okay? Because she didn't want him to really have anything to do with me or my mother. Like my mama didn't want my dad no more, so that wasn't the issue. But she knew that in order to deal with me, he had to deal with her, and she didn't want that. So it strained our relationships. He would sneak, literally, to see me, to do things for me, anything, because this woman had such control over the relationship, I guess, or whatever, and he didn't want to make her upset or however, or whatever it was. So I never really had a relationship with my dad. He was very disappointing in a lot of the things. When I became 18, I told my father exactly how I felt, and they weren't very nice words. But I told him in nice words now that I felt like he was a weak man to choose a woman over his child. I came first, and even though I know she probably makes you happy and happy can be, I am still your blood. And if anything was to happen to her, you would still need me because I am your child. Well, fast forward to years later. Because of how I was treated, whenever I meet a man and he has children, I think back of how I felt and what happened to me when my father chose his wife. So whenever I'm in a relationship, needless to say, I am like doing all I can as a stepmom, because I never want that child to feel like they are left out, or feel like they aren't a part, or feel any kind of way like I felt, or make their parent or their mother feel like they're choosing me over them. I always tell them that child comes before me, because that is your child at the end of the day. So I've always been like that because of what I went through with my father. Now, up to the day my father died, when my father died on his deathbed, he did apologize. He did tell me that he didn't mean to hurt me. He understood my hurt and he apologized. So in the end, I really got my closure with my father, because for a long time I resented my dad. I really resented my dad because I felt like he wasn't there for me. He didn't protect me, nor was he the man that I needed him to be for me, to show me the things I needed as a daughter. So, fellas, if you're watching this and you have a daughter, don't neglect her. Don't choose anyone over her. Make sure she feels like she is the most precious and specialist thing in your life. Even if you have a new wife, a new woman, new whatever, never make her feel like she is not important or just as important as that other woman. That is my story, y'all. Boy, I got all kind of stories. But anyway, that is my story of my dad. So my dad and I had a very strained relationship up until the day he died. But that apology was the closure I needed. Not that I never stopped loving my father, because I always loved him. But I just was hurt by what he did. I felt like he chose her over me. Now, mind you, me and that lady didn't really get along. We didn't. That's why I keep calling her his wife. I never had a stepmother that was his wife. I never had a bond or relationship with that lady at all. Even when I went to his memorial, she was there and she looked at my daughter, who my daughter looks, she's a pure image of me when I was her age. So she was like, oh my God, she looked just like you did when you were at that age. Anyway. Life goes on. You can't stand and stay in those positions in that place. So I had to release all that anger and resentment, even after telling him how I felt in those few choice words that I used at that moment. It felt great, but it still didn't heal me or make me feel like I got my closure. Up until his deathbed, when he actually apologized, did I release that. And I felt like it's time to let it go. So if you have, like me, a strained relationship with your father, if you have the opportunity, talk to him. Get the closure you may feel you need. If not, write him a letter that he may never receive. But you got to release those emotions and those feelings that you have within you that's holding you back. Because even if you don't believe it, it is. Okay? So do me that favor. Write that letter. Release those emotions. Release those feelings. Tell him what he missed and what he wasn't a part of and what you wished he done and all that in the letter. And when you're done writing it, burn it up. And you've released those emotions and those feelings and those thoughts. Everything. Okay? All right. That is it. That is all. Until next week. Every day you have breath, you have purpose. Thrive in that. Be great in that. Because greatness lies within you. It's just waiting on you to unlock it and level up. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave me a comment. I'd like to hear your thoughts. What are your relationship like with your father? If you have one, or did you have one? How was it? Let me into your world, okay? I just want to be a part. All right? Love you. Bye.